Hey, everybody, welcome in. Welcome back to Wrestling with My Thoughts, presented by the Fired Up Sports Network. I'm your host, Jade Lowe, TikTok's infamous opinionist. Looks like we already got a few viewers in here. Shout out to Antonio Riddick. Shout out to Manix, regular viewer. Shout out to Ashley, first-time viewer. Big love from England. I've been having a lot of conversation with my viewers from across the pond today. Super excited to have you guys here with me. We got Michael Parson, who's also a first-time viewer. Says, nice intro. Thanks. Our producer, Joey, put that together for me. Intro is top draw. Thanks, Ashley. Again, credit to my producer, Joey. He's watching right now, so he can see y'all's compliments. I'm sure he appreciates it. There's Huggy Bear in chat, and there's Amanda in chat. All right. Awesome. All right, guys. So today we got a lot to talk about. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and start off just with the elephant in the room. This is, to be perfectly honest and give you a peek behind the curtain, this is not something that I planned on discussing today, but it was advertised on Facebook I would be, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. We're going to briefly, and boy do I mean briefly, talk about CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. Guys, for every one source that I have seen that has said that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan to AEW is a done deal, I have seen at least one per report that say that it's not a done deal. And the ones that I follow, the ones that I trust, the ones that I feel like are always on it and always up to date and always honest, Ryan Satin, Sean Ross Sapp, Dave Meltzer, and Brian Alvarez from Wrestling Observer Radio, they have said nothing about it. In fact, Sean Ross Sapp has explicitly said that he's reached out to AEW sources and they have not confirmed it. Robert, give me your source, man. What's your source? And I'm sorry, Robert, to sound so dickish to you, but I'm getting a little past irritated of people coming into my comments and demanding that I talk about Daniel Bryan and CM Punk. Has AEW said that he's confirmed? Has any reputable source, Ryan Satin, Sean Ross Sapp, Wrestling Observer, has any reputable source announced that either Daniel Bryan or CM Punk are confirmed? Who? Tell me. Drop it in the comments. Bodyslam.net? Okay, Bodyslam.net said Daniel Bryan is confirmed. I have never once shared a news article from Bodyslam.net to back up my wrestling news. Ringside.com says that CM Punk is a done deal. Where did they get that information from? Their source. Give me a fucking break. Guys, this is my problem. And this is why I didn't want to talk about it, because I'm going to get fired up here. But like people say in my comments all the time, this is the reason why I'm the infamous opinionist, because I say the shit that everyone else is too scared to say, or that everyone else doesn't want to say because they don't want to piss anybody off. If I piss all of you off watching, that's fine, whatever. This is my problem with wrestling nowadays, is we are so fucking obsessed with always knowing what's going to happen that we can't stop and enjoy what's on our fucking television screens. We had a lot of great shit happen in wrestling this week, and I'm going to talk about all of it. But all anyone wants me to fucking talk about is CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. And I'm supposed to go on TikTok and talk about it because it's going to fetch me 10,000 views, or it's going to fetch me a viral video. I don't give a shit about any of that. I have not seen one reputable source say that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan signed with AEW. And I'm done hearing about it. I'm done talking about it. Would it be cool if they signed with AEW? Abso-fucking-lutely. Are there countless dream matches in AEW that could include CM Punk and Daniel Bryan? Absolutely. Have they signed? No, they haven't. And until I see them show up on TV, or until I see a reputable news source post on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere, and tell me that they've been signed, they are not signed. And I don't want to talk about it. All of this good shit going on TV, and all anyone wants me to talk about is a coward in CM Punk who left wrestling 7 years ago. And was he treated like shit from WWE? Yeah, he was. But the fact of the matter is, he gave up on his entire fan base. He gave up on a business that he loved because of how one company treated him. And he decided he was done wrestling. And now, 7 fucking years later, I'm supposed to care? Daniel Bryan's contract ran out with WWE. It's his motive, and it's his decision on if he wants to go to AEW or not. No matter where Daniel Bryan wrestles, he's going to be great. So why are we making a big deal out of if it's AEW or Ring of Honor? You guys all act like, when I say you guys, if I'm not talking to you, I'm not talking to you. People act like AEW airs every week in direct competition with WWE. Newsflash. They don't. WWE doesn't give a shit what AEW is doing. Now, AEW cares, or at least the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and the Elite do, because they can't go 5 minutes on being the Elite or 5 minutes into a promo without making fun of something WWE has done. So AEW cares. And AEW is going to make a big deal if CM Punk and or Daniel Bryan sign with them. They're going to make a big deal. Oh, look at us. Oh, look at these two goats. They didn't want to be on WWE. Come over here. This is where they wanted to be. I don't care. Now, if it happens, the matches that come out of it are going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal. At least I assume. I know for sure that Daniel Bryan's matches are going to be phenomenal because he wrestled less than a year ago. CM Punk hasn't wrestled in 7 fucking years. He's attended more hockey games in the past 7 years than he has wrestling matches. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings or to break your hearts. I don't know what to expect from CM Punk. And just because he comes back doesn't mean that it's going to change the game. Doesn't mean that AEW is going to be any better for it. And yeah, he's probably going to talk shit on WWE and everyone's going to have a big old laugh. My point is, if and when they debut on AEW, if and when any reputable source gives me any reason to believe that these rumors are true, I'll talk more about it. I'll talk about what could happen. I'll talk about the impact to the wrestling business. I'll talk about the matches and the storylines they could be involved in. Until then, every time you leave me a comment asking me to talk about Punk or Bryan, I'm not gonna address it at all. Shout out to a few more people who are watching. Michael Parson, thank you for your comment. Alex, you loved and appreciated. I appreciate the support, man. Thank you so much. Ashley says hashtag ring rust. Yep. Alex says he doesn't have a preference either way. Dean says he disagrees, which is you're right. You're absolutely allowed to disagree. The pipe bomb, if he does a pipe bomb on AEW, if and when he signs, it's going to be a lot less effective than the pipe bomb, because any pipe bomb he does on WWE is going to be so full of spite and so full of immature banter that it's going to get on my nerves. Alex A says facts. All right, so now let's talk about what I wanted to talk about today. Let's talk about the shit that actually happened, and let's start with Raw. Everything that happened on Raw and SmackDown was fallout or immediate reaction to Money in the Bank, right? Big news for Raw at Money in the Bank is that Nikki Ash, Nikki Cross, Nikki ASH, whatever the fuck they want us to call her nowadays, became the women's Money in the Bank holder. And what did I say on my Money in the Bank preview podcast? I said that the one thing I hope they do with both Money in the Bank briefcases, no matter who wins, is they have a nice, long, classic carrying of the case, which ends in a dramatic, out-of-nowhere cash-in. And with Nikki Ash on Raw, I got one of those two things. Definitely got a dramatic cash-in. Did not have a long carrying of the briefcase. I don't know what it is with the women's Money in the Bank briefcase. Carmella carried it for like 6 months when she won it. You always had to wonder every time the champion was out there, is Carmella coming? Carmella coming? Is Carmella coming? Every time she came out to cash in, there was some kind of shenanigans that kept her from actually cashing in, which was hilarious. And now you think about the Money in the Bank contract holders on the women's side ever since that first one with Carmella. Alexa Bliss cashed in same night. Bayley cashed in same night. Asuka, very next night, traded in the briefcase for the championship when Becky Lynch left. And now Nikki Ash cashes it in. The very next night on Raw, Rhea Ripley and Charlotte have a rematch. Charlotte gets her ass kicked by Rhea after the match. And then Nikki Ash cashes in. And now Nikki Ash is the Raw Women's Champion. Let me just pause for a second. Let me just say, Nikki Cross, Nikki Ash, Nikki whatever, as the Raw Women's Champion, I'm okay with it. I think Nikki Cross deserves it. I think she has been supremely underutilized ever since she came from NXT. I think she was underutilized on Raw and SmackDown, to be honest. Excuse me. She was underutilized when she came from NXT. I think she was underutilized on NXT. I think she could have had classic matches and women's championship matches with Bianca Belair and Shayna Baszler and all those girls, all those ladies. Alex says, why are you murdering me? I used to respect. What are you talking about? If you don't respect me anymore, get the fuck out of my show. If you're kidding, okay, haha, funny. I don't get the joke. Whatever. Sorry, guys. All of that aside, Nikki Cross has earned this women's championship. She has earned at least having the opportunity to have that on her resume. And so I'm happy for Nikki Cross, no matter how long the title reign ends up being. That being said, a lot of people share the opinion of Michael here. I wish Rhea could have had a good title reign. I think she did have a decent title reign with the Raw Championship. I didn't have a major problem with it. I mean, it was, I guess, a little bit above average to me as championship reigns go. Could have been better, could have been worse. I certainly am not disappointed with how it went. And here's the thing, is that Rhea can get that championship back easily before SummerSlam. And everyone's asking me who's going to face Nikki at SummerSlam or what's Nikki going to do at SummerSlam. If you asked me to place money, if you gave me two options and said, place all of your money you've ever made on one of these two options. If one of the options was Nikki keeps the title until SummerSlam and the other option was Nikki somehow drops the title before SummerSlam, that would be the side that I place all my money on. Is that Nikki Cross? Real one, welcome in, buddy. You're good. Nikki Cross will lose that championship before SummerSlam, most likely to Charlotte. And then Charlotte will have some kind of championship match at SummerSlam, maybe involving Rhea and or Nikki Ash. So congratulations to Nikki. She deserves it. And listen, as much as I wanted to see Nikki hold that briefcase for a long time, the fact of the matter is they booked her to look like a smart baby face, which we don't get that often anymore. Most baby faces in WWE are presented as complete dumbasses who don't know their foot from their face, right? They walk out and face the big heel champion and then get jumped by 5 other guys. And they're like, how could I have possibly seen this coming? Nikki Cross was smart. She was booked to look smart. Charlotte was never going to look more vulnerable in storyline than she looked after Rhea beat her up after that match, after that disqualification. So I'm happy for her. I'm happy for her. Ashley Wendell says, I'm ready to see Lashley drop the belt, but not to Goldberg or Lesnar. So there's something else we have to talk about. Goldberg. Goldberg is back. The audience is split. The live crowd loved it. The internet hates it. And it looks like we're getting Lashley versus Goldberg at SummerSlam. Listen, this is just how WWE works. They're trying to bring fans back. Ratings were suffering even before the pandemic. And it seemed like every Monday during the pandemic, Raw was setting a new record every fucking Monday for the lowest ratings. And rather you think Goldberg is boring, or rather you think Goldberg can wrestle, the fact of the matter is he's going to bring in eyes. People are going to tune in. People are going to tune in to see Goldberg. People are going to tune in to chant Goldberg. People are going to tune in to pop when he spears and jackhammers somebody. I think the best move here would be to put Lashley over. I think if you're going to put a title on Goldberg, you do it before SummerSlam and then have someone beat him for the title at SummerSlam, because the next Big Four pay-per-view isn't until November when we have Survivor Series. And I can't see even WWE thinking that keeping the title on Goldberg for that long of a time is going to be a good idea. So I think Lashley beats Goldberg at SummerSlam, but obviously we still have a couple of weeks of booking on Raw until we actually get to SummerSlam. Wes Henry says he will definitely bring in numbers for the occasional nostalgic viewer. Sorry, there you go. And he's absolutely right. What else happened on Raw? We got the United States champion, Sheamus, that's still piddly fucking around with Humberto Carrillo. Look, I say this all the time about WWE with experiments like Humberto Carrillo. Either shit or get off the fucking pot. Or at least, if you're going to keep this story going week over week with Sheamus and Humberto Carrillo, where Humberto eventually goes over, give me a reason to think that Humberto stands a fucking chance. 1 week, Humberto's getting his ass kicked by Sheamus. 1 week, Humberto's only getting a win because he's in a tag team. And 1 week, Humberto loses straight up in a match to Sheamus. What, is he just fucking gone now? What is the point? Why put someone in a title feud if they don't stand any fucking chance of winning it? Humberto is a great athlete. Not great on the mic. You don't have to be great on the mic to be successful. Kenny Omega is considered one of the best wrestlers in the entire fucking world, and I wouldn't put him in my top 30 for mic work right now. But if you don't want it to have Humberto, if you don't want it to be Humberto, if you don't want Humberto to win the championship, get him the fuck out of this rivalry. Because this is the problem with Raw. This is one of many problems, but this is the one that keeps coming back to haunt them. Give me a reason to care. You know what I did? And you can ask my fiance or my son this. You know what I did when Sheamus and Humberto came on Raw? I changed it to the fucking Cardinal game. Because you know what? That Cardinal game was 1-0 at the time. Who knows what could have happened? Game could have changed hands at any moment. Humberto versus Sheamus? Humberto never stood a fucking chance. So what's the point in watching it? Sure, they're going to put on a decent match. But if I already know what the ending is going to be, why would I watch it? That's my problem with rumors. That's my problem with spoilers and dirt sheets. If I already know what's going to happen, what's the point in watching it? And I already knew going in that Sheamus was going to beat Humberto Carrillo. And they gave me even more reason to not fucking care going forward. And then one of the big returns we had on Monday Night Raw, Keith Lee. Chris, I'm about to say something, and it's going to sound like I'm attacking you. I'm not, because you're not the only one that has said this. So don't take this personally. And guys, maybe I'm just in a mood today. Maybe I'm just in a fiery fucking mood today, and I'm in even less inclined to take people's shit than I usually am. And again, Chris, I'm not talking to you specifically. I am so fed up with people utilizing the term squashed or utilizing the term buried without knowing what those fucking terms mean. Keith Lee did not get squashed. Keith Lee got in a lot of offense on Bobby Lashley, and Bobby Lashley speared him and got the win. Keith Lee broke out of the fucking Hurt Lock. Nobody does that. That's not a squash. Keith Lee lost one match. That does not mean he's buried. He lost a competitive match to the most dominant WWE champion that WWE has had in years. If that's being buried, then someone get a shovel and put some fucking dirt on my face. That is not being buried. Rhea Ripley lost the championship to one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time after a 4-month title reign. That's not buried. She's going to be fine. If you don't know what the word buried means, if you don't know what the term squash means, don't use it. And if you are going to use it with me, then expect to be called out on it. Chris, that's all right, man. Again, I wasn't talking about you specifically, but for everyone like you who just used the wrong word, there's a million other people who use it knowing what that word means and use it anyway and use it in the incorrect context. G, welcome in. Thank you for watching Wrestling With My Thoughts. You're loved and appreciated. If you want to further support Wrestling With My Thoughts, exciting news, we have some merch available. FiredUpSportsApparel.com. I'm going to hide that ribbon going across the bottom of the screen there so you can see it. FiredUpSportsApparel.com. You can find some Wrestling With My Thoughts merchandise. You can find the logo. You can find my catchphrase. You wanted my opinion, you got it. And, excitedly enough, and this one's my favorite, blocked. You can find a t-shirt that just says blocked across it. And if I'm right, should have my TikTok username across the back too, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But it definitely says blocked across the front, which is obviously going to be the tool that we utilize in TikTok for anyone who wants to be an asshole in chat. So go to firedupsportsapparel.com. If you do end up buying any of my t-shirts, I would love, 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 and appreciate if you guys would take a photo of yourselves and post it to my Facebook wall or tag me in a TikTok video of you wearing it. That'd be awesome. You can also tune in to some of the other shows we have at Fired Up Sports Network, including the Dump and Chase Show, premier hockey show coming every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right. Now let's talk about SmackDown. SmackDown, obviously, as well, following up to Money in the Bank. The big news for SmackDown coming over from Money in the Bank, was Big E winning the Money in the Bank briefcase and becoming Mr. Money in the Bank. Now, I hope with Big E, they do it a little bit better than they did with Nikki Cross, where he holds it for a while. So people are already asking me, how would you book it? I don't know how I would book it. I honestly don't know. I think what's going to happen is that Roman's going to get tied up in these stories with Cena and Balor and even past that, God knows who. And we're going to forget for a while that Big E even has the Money in the Bank briefcase. And then the cash in will be more of a surprise. He was kind of lost in the shuffle this week because there was a big rumble between he and the Intercontinental Champion Apollo Crews, Ziggler and Rude, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Cesaro. There's a big shuffle there. That'll be interesting. We have a big multi-man scuffle, maybe even a classic, like a gauntlet match or a championship scramble to determine either the number one contender or the champion himself. That'd be really cool. We'll see what happens. Big E deserves it. You know, you think back to 8 years ago and 8 or 9 years ago, and he's following Ziggler around, and Ziggler's got the Money in the Bank briefcase, and now Big E is the one with the briefcase. Big E is so charismatic. He's so talented. He's so fucking strong. So fucking funny. He is just a classic professional wrestler with a little bit of a twist. But all in all, again, like Chris says, he deserves it. Ashley Wendell says, Edge and Seth, take my money now. This is the other big thing coming out of SmackDown. Edge begins his rivalry with Seth Rollins. A great promo back and forth. Phenomenal promo back and forth between Edge and Seth Rollins on SmackDown. Ryan Satin on on Twitter, pointed out that at the end of Seth Rollins' promo, he gave a little, bang bang with Edge, which maybe could be teasing maybe like a hardcore match between Seth Rollins and Edge. We'll see down the road. Take my fucking money if that's the case. What it looks like to me, and I apologize if I'm up now with my voice, my throat's a little bit scratchy today. I think I started off too high. What it looks like to me is that Edge had a checklist when he came back of wrestlers that he wanted to interact with or wrestle, and it looks like he's running down that checklist. To me, that's what it looks like. I know in character he's all about championships, but it looks to me like Edge, the person, Adam Copeland, had a checklist that he's walking down, and he's marking people off that checklist. He's wrestled Randy Orton, he's wrestled Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and now he's going to have a match with Seth Rollins. He won the Royal Rumble. So we got to interact with Christian a little bit, not Royal Rumble, before Christian went over to AEW. So I think he has a checklist, and I think he's running down that checklist. I think Seth versus Edge, the build-up and the match itself could be even better than Edge versus Roman Reigns. Ashley said, who would I say is the next one after Rollins? I don't know. I can't get inside Edge's head and figure out who the next person might be. I would like to think, and again, call bias, what the fuck ever. I would like to think that it's Dolph Ziggler. Edge and Dolph had some great matches leading up to the final, during the final year of Edge's career. So I'd like to think that Dolph Ziggler is on that list, and I think that they could put on a really good match now. John Cena. John Cena is back on SmackDown. I think that the two best segments from SmackDown this past Friday, last night, were the promo at the top of the show with Cena and the promo at the end of the show with Roman Reigns. Those are the two best moments on SmackDown this week. Roman Reigns had one of the... He is just so good. I don't know how else to say it. He's just so fucking good. He's so good. Roman Reigns is good. He's great. He's a natural bad guy. He's a natural heel's heel. And that line that he dropped during his promo, he was talking about, oh, Cena, it's the same old stuff and the same old entrance and the same old shirt and the same... It's like missionary every night. It was so funny. And the crowd reacted, and he and Heyman sold it brilliantly. It was just so good. So good. Hashtag missionary. Yeah. Hashtag missionary. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Cena go over Reigns when this is all said and done. It would feel like a big deal over Roman Reigns, the most dominant champion WWE has had in several years. At SummerSlam, the 17th title reign. It would just be such a big fucking deal. But we can't get too far ahead of ourselves, because what happened at the end of that Roman Reigns promo? Yeah. Finn Balor. Balor versus Cena versus... Yeah, no, sorry, Ryan. That's not going to happen. Here's the thing, guys, and I posted a TikTok about this last night. It will be Reigns versus Cena at SummerSlam. I would stake my beard upon it. Not seriously. I would never seriously put that at risk. You see my point. I am confident it will be Roman Reigns versus John Cena one-on-one for the Universal Championship at SummerSlam. Listen, Balor just doesn't fit in this. He doesn't have a place in this at all. And there's videos already circulating on TikTok about the dark match that occurred on SmackDown after it went off the air last night. What do you think that was, if you haven't seen it? Do you think the dark match was Finn Balor versus Jey Uso? Nope. Do you think it was Finn Balor versus John Cena? Nope. Oh, could it have been Balor versus Reigns himself? No. Guess what it was? John Cena and the Mysterios versus the Bloodline. That was the dark match after SmackDown went off the air last night. But they're totally doing Balor and Reigns at SummerSlam. Balor's totally going to be in a triple threat. No, he's not. He's not. How do you build up Roman versus John at SummerSlam? You can't do Reigns versus Cena every week, right? You can't bury the lead. You can't give it all away at once. So what do? You put Reigns in other matches against other guys in the build-up to SummerSlam with John Cena being on the outside and interacting with these matches throughout. So, yeah, I think Roman and Finn Balor will have a match. I think they'll announce it on Raw that it's going to be Roman versus Finn on SmackDown next Friday. Finn will probably give him an awesome match, and then he will either lose straight up or he will be the subject of a beatdown by the Bloodline, and John Cena will come out and save Balor. And that's it. And then Balor's going to move on to something else. Balor will go do other great things with other great competitors in other great matches. Finn Balor will not be anywhere near this main event by the time SummerSlam comes around. It will be Lashley versus Goldberg, straight up. Cena versus Reigns, straight up. And Michael, I'm a huge fan of Finn Balor too. I want to see Balor in these high-profile matches. There goes my baseball. But you have to temper your expectations. You have to temper your expectations. This is why people get so disappointed in WWE, is because they build up in their heads, oh, this would make so much sense, and this would be so good, and this has got to be what they're doing, right? And then it's not. So, yeah, Balor and Reigns will have a match, and it's going to be an excellent match, but it will be Cena versus Reigns at SummerSlam. SmackDown also broadcasted 2 matches in front of the Rolling Loud Miami show. It is a festival which houses what looked to be like 100,000 people who are there to listen to rap artists, delve out their trade. The crowd couldn't give a shit. The crowd could not be fucking bothered. No pops, no reactions. When the Street Profits went down the little like walkway out into the crowd doing this, there was like 6 people out of 100,000 doing this. They could not be fucking bothered. They did not care, and it was a little bit sad. Angelo Dawkins beat Chad Gable to no reaction, and then Bianca retained her championship against Carmella to 0 reaction. It was okay. The matches were okay. But the crowd did not give a shit. That was one of the worst ideas they could have had. It's one of the worst ideas they could have had. I mean, logistically, I could see, oh, look at all these people and all this money, and you got Wale who sings Biggie's entrance theme out there introducing. And Wes Henry says it reminds him of the spring. Yeah, the spring break shows are like hog wild. The crowds at these shows, there's a reason they don't do these kinds of shows anymore. There's a reason even WCW stopped doing the spring break shows and the hog wild shows at these festivals and stuff. People do not care. You can't go to a rap show. You can't go to a motorcycle rally. You can't go to a spring break where the people are there to do something completely different, could not be more different from professional wrestling. slap a wrestling ring down there, have a match, and expect the crowd to care. I don't blame the crowd for not caring. They weren't there to see a wrestling match. They were there to see people rap. So it was just silly. It was a silly idea. It was kind of hard to watch, like G said. The crowd didn't give a shit. So hopefully they don't do anything like that anymore. And then outside of WWE, guys, we had AEW Dynamite. We had Fyter Fest Night 2. We had Andrade revealing that we would have Chavo Guerrero as the special counsel. We had Chris Jericho defeating Shawn Spears and then finding out that his second test or whatever for MJF was going to be Nick Cage, a deathmatch legend from the independent scene. We continued our feud between Britt Baker, DMD, and Nyla Rose. AEW, it's just good. It has its opportunities, just like WWE does. Again, a couple of things AEW does that get on my nerves. They seem to stop and start stories even more than WWE does. Last week, Vicky Guerrero was Andrade's manager, and now they decided, oh, wait, Chavo Guerrero's available. Let's just throw Chavo in that role. They bring in these guys from the indies with no build whatsoever. They bring in these guys from the indies with no build whatsoever and expect their names to carry weight and cause reaction. And sometimes they do, like Nick Gage. Sometimes they do carry weight. Sometimes it works. And sometimes it doesn't. Overall, AEW's got a really good product right now. Week to week, obviously, it blows Monday Night Raw out of the water. It usually beats NXT, which we'll talk about NXT in a moment. I almost forgot. And then it kind of flip-flops with SmackDown. To me, week over week, Dynamite and SmackDown flip up and down, back and forth as the best show of the week. I think this week, Fyter Fest Night 2 probably beat Friday Night SmackDown. That the Rolling Loud stuff, again, that was like 30 minutes of the show that I just did not care about because the crowd didn't care about it. So, ranking the shows and how much I enjoyed them this week, I would probably say AEW, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, but usually SmackDown and AEW are up there at the top. NXT, there's a lot of good things going on in NXT, but there's one very confusing thing, and I waited to address this until I started talking about NXT because it kind of flows into it very nicely. On Raw, we had Karrion Kross stripped of his entrance, stripped of Scarlett, stripped of everything about his presentation to come out and have a 2-minute nothing match with Jeff Hardy in which Jeff Hardy put his feet on the ropes and pinned Karrion Kross. In case you guys haven't heard, there were reports that when they filmed NXT this week, they had a closing segment between Karrion Kross and Samoa Joe, and they actually had to refilm the segment because throughout that segment, the crowd was chanting, Hardy, Hardy, Hardy. This is why I hate, no matter the person, no matter the reason, no matter the match, I hate when they bring guys from NXT to be on TV and then try and take them to NXT again. I don't want to be running 2 stories with Karrion Kross. Finish one plate before you start another one. Why do I have to concern myself with what's going on with Karrion Kross and Jeff Hardy when he hasn't even finished out this thing with Samoa Joe yet? Kross and Joe should be one of, if not the best thing going on NXT right now, but it's spoiled because I constantly have to wonder what's going on with Jeff Hardy now. And then you've got The Way, who looks like they may be splitting up. You've got Hit Row. Hit Row are the best thing by far on NXT right now. Listen, I used to I used to not be a big fan of Isaiah Swerve Scott. But once he joined Hit Row, instantly converted into a believer. I love Isaiah Swerve Scott, and I love Hit Row. They're so much fun. They're so energetic. They're so real. They're so authentic. And they're also talented in the ring. And every time they come out, I'm like, all right, sweet. You know, it's time for Hit Row. No matter what's going on in the show up to that point, I know that things are about to change because Hit Row is going to save it. Because Hit Row is just that fucking good. MSK, also one of the best things they have going. It looks like they're leaning towards a rematch with Imperium. I could have sworn that Walter had showed up on NXT. I could have sworn that Walter showed up on NXT and Imperium was like completed now, but now he's gone again. So, I don't know. Hit Row are going to be bigger than Undisputed Era. You know what? I don't know if they're going to be bigger, but I think they could equal Undisputed Era. Because they're two different groups. They're two completely different groups. Especially if B-Bad starts wrestling and like starts competing for like the women's championship and stuff. Yeah. Hit Row are going to be big. Excuse me, guys. I may have to cut it soon. My throat's starting to hurt a little bit. Diamond Mine. Yeah, listen. Boa, Tyler Rust, and Roddy Strong, managed by Malcolm Bivens. Solid group. Unfortunately, they've done almost nothing but lose since they came back. So they kind of look like losers right now. I'm hoping they pick up steam a little bit. But I'm excited that they're giving Diamond Mine a chance. I'm excited specifically that they're giving Roddy Strong a chance to be a leader of that group and to see how he does. But again, I think they just need to build a little bit more momentum. I think they need to look like more of a consistent, constant, actual threat to the NXT roster. Because right now they just feel like a group of guys. If Roddy Strong wasn't in that group, I don't think it would be going anywhere. Roddy Strong gives them a feeling of legitimacy. But they got to start winning matches. And they got to start winning matches soon. Gee, this is what I've heard too, that WWE views NXT as a developmental territory. This is the big problem, guys. And this is why it's an issue when you bring NXT guys to the main roster, especially for these one-night only specials or whatever. Because Vince and Triple H have two different ideas of what NXT is. I think Triple H views NXT as a third brand, as he should. And I think Triple H knows the truth, and that is that NXT consistently week over week is better than Raw. But since Vince still views NXT as a developmental territory, he thinks he's allowed to just pluck Karrion Kross from NXT, drop him into Raw, have him lose a match to Jeff Hardy because he's developmental. It doesn't matter how good he is. It doesn't matter what story they've been running on NXT. It doesn't matter the awesome matches that he's been in. All that matters is that he's a developmental guy. Now, he's the top developmental guy because he has the NXT Championship, which is going to make Jeff Hardy look even better when he beats him in 2 minutes. Vince doesn't care about NXT. Vince still sees NXT as that stupid fucking game show they were running 11 years ago. And that's the disconnect between Triple H and Vince McMahon, between NXT and the main roster. Which I hate referring to Raw and SmackDown as the main roster because, again, to me, if somebody moved from Raw to NXT, I would consider that a fucking promotion. It would be a promotion to me if I was a wrestler and I was moved from Raw to NXT. I'd be fucking ecstatic. Yes, Alex, I did see that Walter is defending the UK Championship at TakeOver 36, I believe, against Ilya Dragunov. Obviously, they had a killer of a match last year. I don't expect any less. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to have to hop off here soon because my throat's starting to hurt, but I do still want to give everyone the opportunity. Sometimes people take advantage of this. Sometimes they don't, which is fine if you don't want to. I'm going to drop this link in chat. This is the link to our broadcast room. If you'd like to jump on with me and ask me a question live, face-to-face, now is your opportunity. I'll give a couple of minutes for anyone who wants to do that to click that link and join. If nobody does that, then we'll end the show. I'll just answer some questions between now and then. How is Finn versus Reigns any different? It's different because Humberto and Sheamus have been going for over a month now. Finn and Reigns is brand new. We'll see what happens. Sheamus versus Humberto, we get a different version of the same thing every fucking week, where Humberto doesn't stand a fucking chance against Sheamus. Looks like we have Ash on the stream. Hey, Ash, how's it going?
Now then, all the way from England.
Oh, awesome, man. I don't know what it is today. I've just got a magnet for my watchers from the UK and from England today. How you doing today, man?
All good, all good. Just
good.
Want to obviously just come on and show support more than anything.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Because, personally, first time I've watched you live, awesome, by the way. Absolute top draw. And what was I going to say? I think I asked the question in the chat. What would your opinion if Joe was to go over on Cruz?
If Joe was to go over on Karrion Kross, I'd be okay with it.
Kross, sorry, not Cruz.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I knew what you meant. I'd be okay with it. It'd be a little bit confusing because the first thing that Regal said was, Joe, you're not going to compete for championships and all that. And now a month later, he's competing for championships. But if we could just ignore that Regal said that several weeks ago, exactly. The match is going to be excellent, and there's going to be a huge pop in the arena when Joe makes him tap out or whatever. So, yeah, I'd be down for it.
Fingers crossed on that one. Did you think Kross is coming up to the main roster then?
Main roster, yeah. I think he is. I think he is soon. My biggest concern is that Vince is going to bring him up all stripped down like he appeared on Raw this week.
Yep.
Kross just doesn't work without the presentation.
Without Scarlett.
Yeah. With the presentation, he looks like a badass. Without it, he looks like a bald guy in a skirt. And
like
so
you, who was in a skirt.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got to have the smoke. They've got to have the flashing lights. They've got to have Scarlett there. It doesn't work without Scarlett. And I'm afraid if they bring him up as it is now, he's going to fail. And he'll end up with the rest of the goobers chasing the 24/7 title. So we'll see.
That makes me sad, even thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one more before we was to go, more than anything.
Yeah, sure.
The man returning, who would you like to see return against?
I'd like to see her on SmackDown, but she's needed more on Raw. I think Raw needs Becky to bring some energy to that place. I said when I was talking with Axel Guzman on my podcast several weeks ago, the difference between Raw and SmackDown is when I watch SmackDown, there's this kinetic energy between me and the characters on the TV that just constantly feeds each other. Yes. And with Raw, it's just so stale, and I don't want it to be stale, but there's just no kinetic energy. I think Becky comes in and immediately creates kinetic energy that makes Raw more watchable. So
as soon as she puts anything on Twitter, it goes nuts.
Oh yeah,
and yeah. She's not even stepped foot on the stage yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. To answer your question about who would I like to see her face, I mean, I'd like to see her face somebody new like Naomi or Nikki Ash or Alexa Bliss, but she's going to end up facing Charlotte. Yeah, Rhea Ripley would be okay too, but she's going to end up facing Charlotte when she comes back.
She is.
That's just something we're all going to have to get used to. So,
of course. Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure anyway.
Thank you too, Ash. Thank you so much, man.
No worries. Take care, Chief. Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anybody else before we hop off here? Kross should never have beaten Ciampa, in your opinion? I've seen a lot of people say that. And thanks for the answer. You're very welcome, Michael. Thanks for the question. Humberto's just looking for different ways to get his ass kicked. Is he a masochist? Is that what it is? Excuse me. Humberto just wants to get his ass kicked. He's a masochist. Marty, I talked about CM Punk, Daniel Bryan earlier. I'm not going to talk about him again. You can go watch the replay of the show and see my thoughts on CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and AEW. I talked about it as the very first topic. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for tuning in today. It means a lot. Thank you so much if you were on my TikTok live. Thank you, especially if you were able to make a donation. It really helps me out a lot. I will see you guys right back here next Saturday, same time, same place, for Wrestling with My Thoughts. If you haven't given me a follow, go and do that on TikTok. Make sure you check out our merch at firedupsportsapparel.com. I will see you guys next weekend. Have a good week, guys.